The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Ball NBA DFS Today podcast. Today is Monday, October 7th, and I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by the one and only Shark DFS NBA super stud, Mr. Michael Apotria. How are you today, Mike?
I'm doing swell, Coach. I mean, listen, you're calling me the super stud. I see that following you're gaining over there, man. I see you shouting out your Twitter followers, answering questions, getting your thank you screenshots, man. You're killing it out here. You're a stud yourself, man. Good job.
Thanks, man. It has been a really good weekend. We really fired up some good picks throughout the entire weekend. So it was fun. It's we're on the I keep putting the bag of money and the train symbol up there. So we're on the money train, guys. So let's keep this going.
Definitely. And tomorrow we have 4 games to keep on riding the train right through. So, I
We
mean,
do.
we got a couple of stops to make in a few different towns. I mean, if we want to keep this pun or analogy going, I guess. So, I'm looking forward to it, man. This is like the first one where I guess we do kind of got to look at price a little bit now. I mean, not so much. It's still preseason, so it's not a mega factor. But I mean, now we have 4 games. That means 8 teams, and that means a few extra studs on the slate.
It does start coming into play, so we'll have to maybe go another level there of actually considering that as well. But well, cool. We've got the nice part about it is we have 4 and 5 and 6 game slates for the next 7 days straight. So that's going to be cool, including a 4 game slate today. Well, we record obviously the night before, so it's Sunday night, but this will be for Monday, October 7th slate. There's 4 games with Orlando, Detroit at 6. These are all Central Times. Knicks and Wiz also at 6. New Orleans, Atlanta 6:30, and Milwaukee, Chicago at 7. So it should be a really good competitive slate. And as we get started here, we want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, Fantasy Draft. They are the only rig-free fantasy site in the industry. They run a main event every Sunday in the NFL, the $500,000 Hooters Challenge. So you definitely want to jump in there. Go to fantasydraft.com, use the promo code HoopBall, and get 7 days free for $1,000 worth of play. So go after it, man. And we thank Fantasy Draft. They're riding through us through the preseason. They become live in NBA on October 22nd, opening night. But they are fully partners with us, and so we're thankful to them. So, all right, man. Let's dive in and hit this first game right off the bat. Orlando, Detroit. Do you want to take the Orlando Magic?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily want to take them as much as I did the other night, especially if they're seeing kind of how their rotations panned out. I just want to say good call on that Mo Bamba pick. I mean, he kind of cashed out for a lot of people. I saw that he was in a few of the winning lineups, too. That was a good call, Coach.
Thank you, man. Yeah, what saved me was the Mo Bamba and Michael Carter Williams. They ended up being Mo Bamba was the highest scorer on the entire slate, and Michael Carter Williams was third. Anthony squeezed in between Anthony Davis and LeBron James.
Well, I mean, Curry didn't do so bad himself either, and I think if we had the 4 minutes in the first quarter back where they just went over, it could have been a little closer. But I'm still happy with where I was on that call. I mean, LeBron played the amount of minutes I expected. He just played phenomenal. I mean, Anthony Davis stole the show, but the whole team looked phenomenal. So, but back to this game, I think we could look back at those guys again, with being Bamba and Carter Williams. I mentioned Fultz, and he was a guy that I liked on the first night that they played, but it being such a close game, second preseason game, he might be somebody I steer a little bit clear from, especially after everybody else kind of jumped on that hype train. Just a guy that even if he's fully cleared, fully healthy, they might not want to just rush him back and let him play too many minutes close together. So I'm going to steer clear from him. I'll probably be looking more towards Michael Carter-Williams as far as the point guard. Vucevic, a guy that I always love to play. They're going to need him in this matchup if they're going to match Drummond's minutes. But again, I'm going to kind of go with your Mo Bamba play on this one. My center spot's reserved on the other side of the ball for this.
Okay, no, that's a good call. As far as me with Orlando, as of now, they don't have anybody listed as out or injured, so that's a good thing. Again, as I stated, the other day, really Williams and Baum were the only two guys I used because I just, their rotation is so deep in, and their coach likes to rotate quite a few guys in preseason based on past history. So it's hard to really zone in on anybody. Now, I am going to go a little bit with Jonathan Isaac and maybe a little Aaron Gordon in the mix as well, along probably with Bamba again. I know that everybody is going to jump on Bamba. He was, about 12.6% owned on one of the sites, which was super low. But that's probably everybody's going to get on that gravy train. But I'm looking at Isaac. I think just Isaac is getting in a groove, getting confident. I think he's going to have a bigger role with the team. So knowing that there's so much uncertainty with Detroit's 3 position, I think Isaac may get a free run of doing some good things when he's on the court. But again, not a team of the with an 8-team slate that I'm going to focus on. I'm going to try to mix and match probably Isaac and Gordon and Bamba in there.
Well, I don't know if you saw the quote or what the Magic are saying now is that they're actually going to do a little bit of experimenting during the preseason, running Gordon and Isaac at the 4 and 5. So that could that would obviously bode well for him. This might not be the right matchup you want to do it in.
Right.
Going against his front court, so maybe they'll save it for another game. But just the fact that they're willing to run them at a couple of different lineups and a couple of different positions will only bode well for their minutes at the end of the day. Good call on both those guys. They both have a little bit of boom bust. I always said Aaron Gordon's the guy I'll never get right, so I just steer clear and I just take my losses on the nights he goes off. And just seeing that he performed well in their last preseason game kind of scares me off of even more. But again, if I'm saying he's probably gonna do bad and I don't get it right, play a lot of Aaron Gordon, I guess.
Yeah, and it's the thing. You may want to fade Vuk and Bamba. The bottom line is, and I'll just go to that. I'll lead into this other game by stating what I was just going to say. I'll start with the Pistons. Is with Drummond and Griffin both expected to play. That does create a matchup issue on the front line, and not sure. But, I can't see them going small, like you said, that they're going to, I did read that as well, that they're going to experiment with that. And I think it'll work against certain teams, but certainly not a Griffin Drummond front line. So it makes it a little bit difficult. And this is definitely not my favorite game of the night, but it is at Detroit, and they're going to be stoked up for them out on the court. And even if they play a half, you got to consider either Griffin or Drummond. I'm always partial to that because I generally use one or the other when it's a matchup against a team where I think they can exploit some of the front line. So I'm gonna I'm interested to double check on pricing and relook at some things, but I am going to consider a Griffin or Drummond play. A couple of other guys, really only one that I specifically like on the Pistons is Bruce Brown. He and Luke Kennard, they are in a battle for the 2 spot. Langston Galloway, Derrick Rose may play a little too alongside of Jackson. So there's a lot of competition of minutes. I think Brown has sort of the first run at it with Coach. So I'm looking for him to step up. I try to really spearhead the guys that have to show something in order to solidify either their starting spot or a spot in the rotation. So Bruce Brown is sort of a guy that steps out of it for me. So, I'll be looking for him in a lot of lineups, and either or with Griffin or Drummond, determining pricing and site with them. And there are contests on both DraftKings and FanDuel, and the pricing is a little different. So that's where I am on Detroit.
I'm in the same exact spot with you. It's only two people for me. It's Bruce Brown and it's Andre Drummond. If I were to tell you last season, their first preseason game last season, they only had two position players play more than 27 minutes, and just doing that alone is pretty wild itself. It was their shooting guard, it was Kennard, and Drummond played 34 minutes in the first preseason game last season. So, yeah. Casey's not necessarily shy to play him. So I don't know if he's going to go do that again, but if I'm not expecting 34, I would take 24 to 26, and I'd run to the bank with it.
I'm with you, man. All right, game one down. Let's go jump right to the next one, which first team is the Knicks. I'll take the Knicks. They have a plethora of injuries at guard specifically. They already have three of their main ball handlers out. Dennis Smith, Damian Dotson, and Kadeem Allen are all out for that game. So, that puts a big circle for me on this game with the elf off the shelf with Elfrid Payton. I think that he'll get a really, really solid run. And also Frank Ntilikina, I think, will get some run as well. He had some stretches in FIBA with France that he played well, and some where he disappeared, which has sort of been his MO since he's come into the league. But I think, with Payton and or the pivot to Ntilikina, based on the fact that they're just so shallow in the depth chart on the guard side, are definitely good looks. Obviously, you've got R.J. Barrett, who, being a rookie, and, it is New York, and, it's a spotlight. I know they want to get him as much run as possible. I think that R.J.'s a very strong play, too. His pricing is still going to be fair. So I have no problem, going with a combination, probably leaning towards Payton and Barrett, and may, stack those two guys. As far as the big guys, I'm going to go to the pass button, just as I'm going to do pretty much when the regular season rolls around. I expect to see minutes tomorrow in the 3-4-5 spot split up between Knox, Morris, Ellington. Barrett will play a little 3. Randall, Portis, Taj Gibson, Marcus Morris, Mitchell Robinson. That's a lot of guys. And I just don't feel comfortable saying, are any of these guys going to show out beyond, 16 minutes, 18 minutes of play? I doubt it. Julius Randle's going to get a lot of ownership. He is an awesome DFS guy because he's, like I say a lot on the shows, he'll knock his own guy out of the way to get a bucket or get a rebound, which you got to love as a DFS player. But I'm gonna steer clear of the bigs.
Well, I don't knock you for it, but I mean, Robinson's a guy that I'm going to definitely have my eye on. It's going to be, like I said, Drummond's probably going to be my favorite center on the slate, and I expect those two guys to garner the highest ownership amongst others. Just with the hype train following Robinson around, but we've seen what he did in limited minutes last season. He can easily drop a 40 DraftKings point night in 20 minutes. So
true.
He's a guy that I'm definitely going to still have my eye on. He's a little bit of priced up. Actually, looking at it now, $5,200 is really affordable. So at that price, I wouldn't mind going double center with him and Drummond. No matter what, he's going to have 20 minutes locked up. I think going forward, this is a young team. I like the Barrett call. He's going to guy I have a lot of ownership in. They're going to he's going to shoot a bad percentage all season long, but bottom line is they're going to want him to work out as many kinks as possible. heading into the regular season. Alfred Payton, another great call with all these injuries down there at point guard. They don't have a lot to rely on. Nicolino also did play in FIBA. I kind of, have been trying to do my best steering clear of too many FIBA guys going into the preseason, at least the first game.
Right.
It's just a game that they don't really need to focus on coming off, give them a little bit more rest kind of thing. So for that reason, I'm going to steer clear of Nicolino. I'm not going to completely X him out of my player pool. But I definitely think Alfred Payton would probably be my first guess. So I more or less, I'm looking at Payton, Barrett, and Robinson. I wouldn't knock you for Julius Randle. I think he's a great tournament player. I think he's going to be very, I would say, over-owned, given the other options that we're going to have.
Yeah. And I'm not the biggest RJ Barrett fan. We've talked about this several times. To me, he still has to prove it. But, I think where he'll hurt the most is field goal and free throw percentage. And again, for DFS, that isn't as long as he's going to chuck and duck, that's fine. I don't care how many shots he gets up as long as he's putting up fantasy points. So, I think that he'll be more of a consistent DFS play than anything else. So, good call, though. I like your Mitchell Robinson. Like you said, he can throw so many blocks on the board so quick. And, the fact that he knows that he doesn't have to play a ton of minutes because it's preseason, he will probably go after blocks and everything, full tilt. Now, I did read an article today where he made a comment and said he understands, how the foul trouble has been such a limitation for him. And he was now willing to, give up a few of those blocks to be a little bit more sensible and not just be like a crazy man. Like I said, in the one NBA preseason game, it was so funny. There was a bunch of time left in the game, and he got his 7th foul, because you get 10 fouls in summer league, and it was like, good Lord. I mean, he has 7 fouls in 18 minutes. It's almost hard to believe. So I'm hoping, I think, from a preseason DFS standpoint, he'll be a little more aggressive because he doesn't have to get out those long minutes. But obviously, with that comment, though, it is a little bit in his head. So, we'll see. He's going to be an interesting guy to watch.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, that price tag is absurd.
It is absurd.
I know it's a preseason price tag, but just looking in comparison's sake, Julius Randle is $1,600 more than him. Give me Robinson at 52 over Randle at 68 any day of the week.
There's no doubt it's a value play. And, if we have to start looking at value plays with, now that we have 4 and 5 games, 6 game slates every night, that he's certainly underpriced, no doubt about it. All right, man, I'm going to jump to the Washington Wizards. They have their injury news. Mahimi is out for about 6 weeks, and their rookie Schofield is not expected to play either. So, they've got a lot of guys somehow dinged up that are questionable. A lot should play, but guys like Miles Brown and Bonga are all supposedly supposed to get minutes, but are not 100%, which is hard to believe. This guy's made dinged up, 5 days into the camp, but it is what it is. So, Washington for me, I'm a big Hashimura fan. I think that he's going to start and be, one of the better rookie contributors. I'm looking at him as a first-team all-rookie team player this year. A lot of it, because I think he's got a lot of talent and he's very mature for his age and his game is mature. But also the whole minutes equal money thing, I think he's really going to get a good run. I know, Thomas Bryant's their starter. Your man Davis Bertans will get some 4 or 5 action, but that's really as deep as they go, as we talked about the other day. So, I'm gonna look at Hashimura in this game. I think he's going to want to, have a good first game at home. In front of the fans, and I think he's going to be a fan favorite there. After that, everybody's going to be taking Bradley Beal, and he's probably going to be one of the most expensive and highly owned guys all year because from a usage standpoint, he's going to obliterate and dominate his team without question. I just don't feel good about it. I don't want to spend the high dollar on him for what could be 18 minutes of action. And Scotty Brooks is another coach that likes to rotate, and I wouldn't doubt that he'll play all his young dudes pretty much the whole second half. That was sort of the look that they gave even in the summer league. So I'm probably a Hashimura, and that's it for me on the Wiz.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Hashimura, and then I have one other name that I kind of keep tripping over, and Jordan McRae. He's a guy that when he gets minutes, he's a gunner. He's gonna.
Good point. Great. That's a great call, actually.
Yeah, he's a gunner. That Thomas had his thumb surgery, so it pretty much just leaves him and Ish Smith really. And just looking at what they did in their first preseason game last season, they kind of really limited their starters' minutes. The most a starter played was Bradley Beal. He played 22 minutes. The rest of them went all to the bench. They went 15 deep. Kelly Oubre played 27 off the bench. Rivers played 23 off the bench. Green 23 off the bench. Brown 20 off the bench. So they really spread the minutes out across the bench. Yeah. So it really scares me with any of the starters. But with you talking about Hashimura, he's also a rookie. They didn't have any rookies in their starting lineup, and that's a big factor when you're talking about things that kind of check off boxes where they interest me in preseason games. It's rookies, new guys playing on new teams, those kinds of things. You give them a little bit of boost. So. That's all I got for those. I'm probably going to fade Beal, and I'm not really enticed by the other wing players. Maybe if you want to go Troy Brown, but I'd rather play McRae personally.
Yeah, and I may utilize that McRae pick. I think I'm going to fold that into it. He is such a good fantasy points per minute guy. Whenever he does get an opportunity, and he may get an extended opportunity just because their backcourt shortage. So I love it, man. That's why these shows are good. We rattle each other's brains sometimes to point out some things that are staring us in the face that we didn't see. So good call. All right, man. Let's go to the next game. We have the New Orleans Pelicans, and the only thing I saw was Favors tweaked his hammy in practice yesterday or the day before, and he is questionable. So I am not going to, I can't see why the heck they'd want to play Favors anyway in that scenario. Now, Jackson Hayes is healthy. He did sit out of practice the other day. They said strictly out of precautionary reasons. No idea what that means, but, I would expect him to get minutes. I was really excited to maybe dial him up, but I'll let you hit. It's your turn, so go ahead and hit your Pelicans.
Give me the one that's like a complete crapshoot at this point. It's a whole new lineup.
They're 100 deep, man. They got 1 million guys,
and they're all young. So you could take that out of there, where it's like give the bonus to the young guy who they'll want to play a little bit more. Just looking at it, this can go any which way. This is going to be your lottery ticket. It's going to be this game. It's going to be a high score. This is two teams that play at a fast tempo, that plan to play at a fast tempo during the regular season. On the New Orleans side, obviously, we got to talk about Zion. He's going to be very high owned, I think. I think a lot of people are going to target it just to the name. He also could easily go out there in 24, 25 minutes and produce against this Hawks team, just given the matchup. So he's going to be a guy I have my eye on. I think I'll stay away from Drew Holiday just because I think this team knows what they have in him. He's a guy that doesn't need to play big minutes. Not really good. He's interchangeable at the end of the day. I think the guys I'm going to be looking at are going to be the new key young guys who they're going to need to play a lot together to really master that momentum and that pace, which is going to be like Lonzo, Zion, a little bit of Ingram, and then if we're not looking at any favors, I think Jahlil Okafor kind of creeps into play. But again, They kind of know what they have with him, and we have a couple other centers already on the board. We mentioned Mitchell Robinson, we mentioned Drummond, where I don't think you need to go there, but it wouldn't shock me if he has a halfway decent game.
Yeah, and that's it for your Pelicans. You're not going to dig any deeper, huh?
I don't think I really need. I mentioned a few other spots like my McRae. I'm gonna. at the end of the day, I don't think we need to go too deep. They're going to be very deep themselves as it is. This is a game that, like I said, we're going to want to target. Doesn't mean I want to full on stack it. If I get 3 or 4 players from this game, I think that would be enough. But I don't really think I need to go to your Frank Jacksons. It's in any other case. If Lonzo wasn't there and it was Drew Holiday expected to be the point guard, I would say Frank Jackson makes for a great play. But as much time as they can get with Lonzo Ball and Zion and the rest of these young guys that came over, playing against an actual NBA team before the regular season starts, the better. So I wouldn't be shocked if these guys do play, fairly heavy minutes. I mean, by that I mean 24 to 26 minutes. It wouldn't shock me one bit, but they are so deep where, again, it wouldn't shock me. This is like a GPP game.
Yeah, it is, and it's so tough. It's going to be tough even when the regular season rolls around because of their depth. But I'll tell you what, if this was regular season and it's Pelicans Hawks, I'm stacking it probably 2-2 out of this game for sure, because this is going to be a high scoring regular season game. Now, how does that relate to this situation where there's so many guys that are going to play? Now, I am going to probably use Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and I'll tell you why. He was so damn incredible in Summer League, and I don't know if he's on the cusp of either making the team or not making the team, or if he does make the team, they're going to try to slide him into the bottom of the rotation. So I think he's playing for a lot, playing for not having to go down to the G League because of the depth on this team. So that's one guy I'd like to give a shot at, and we'll definitely have it in a lineup or two. I can tell you that I read something today where my man David Griffin, the GM Wizard, he said so far in camp it hasn't even been close that Brandon Ingram has been their best player. He said he's really come into his own. He's put on about 20 pounds, which he probably needs to put on 50. But they said so. That makes me want to maybe give him a look. They did clear him 100% from the clots. He's totally healthy. And so I'm looking at Ingram as probably going to be a play, and a little Alexander Walker. I'll probably, steer from the other guys. I know Zion will be highly owned, and, again, as explosive as he is, he could do a lot of damage in 20, 25 minutes, and he's a consideration for sure. Again, the big news, it was interesting, the NBA has really sent in the height and weight patrol group this year and put out all the official sizes of people, and Zion is officially 6'6".
That's crazy.
That is small, dude. And we were looking at Luka's 6'7". Luka's taller than Zion Williamson, just to give you that kind of an idea. So, they talk about playing him at the 5 sometimes in small ball at 6'6". So I don't know if I'm interested to see if Gentry uses him a little bit at the 3, even 3, 4, 5. I don't know. It's going to be a fun preseason to watch how they put the pieces together with this Pelicans team. But anyway, I was shocked that he's only 6'6". But I'm going to go. I think Ingram's going to be a plug-in guy for me. I've been on his bandwagon. After I read that with Griffin, it was like, okay, I think I got to give this guy a little look. So that's where I'm at with the Pelicans.
Yeah, no, pretty much the same spot for me. Like I said before, it's just, Zion, Lonzo. If we wanted to play a little Ingram, I don't knock that. I like Ingram. I think he can easily be one of the, the leading scorer for this team, even though Zion's obviously coming out with all that hype. At the end of the day, Ingram, before, you mentioned before that blood clot thing, he was playing very good ball.
He sure was.
He's a guy that's a very good ball handler. He can facilitate an offense as well. So you might even see a little bit of him playing point guard in the second unit. That wouldn't shock me once the regular season comes.
I'm with you. All right, Atlanta Hawks. I'm excited to go to them because this is my top play of the night. I'm going to use Trey Young, lock and load in all my lineups. It's in Atlanta, first preseason game. I'm using the same theory with him as I did Buddy Hield. This is the year they step up to be an all-star level player. They have extremely short backcourt. I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do at point. Their depth chart right now, you've got Trey Young backed up by Evan Turner, who is out, by the way. So let's make sure we mention that Evan Turner is out. And then they have their third listed point guard is DeAndre Bembry, who's not a point guard. The next guy, Cam Reddish, who's not a point guard, and he's dinged a little, so he's a game time decision. And then the only other guy they have even on any kind of depth chart is Brandon Goodwin. So it's going to be very interesting to see, even going into the regular season. I mean, Young is going to be such a target. So he's my number one guy. I'm excited to play him. He's going to be, like I say, a lock and load for me. After that, I'm not going to touch Atlanta on any other guys. I think that I'm not sure what to expect out of DeAndre Hunter yet. Herter has been dinged a little bit. Alan Crabb is also out, so Turner and Crabb are out. You're going to get a little bit of Reddish probably if he does play. And then you've got the mixture of the bigs of John Collins, who I love, but not tonight. And then Jabari Parker, Damian Jones, a little Bruno Fernando, and Alex Len. So I think they're bigs. Like we said, we've identified a lot of bigs already. So, I'm going to be Trey Young or bust, and that's probably going to be my solo hawk for the game.
I love Trae Young as well. It's hard not to love him, just for every aspect. What the guy can do. He can easily drop 10 assists in 20 minutes, and I expect, like you said, a couple more. But I have a little bit more interest in these young guys in the wing. Cam Reddish, last I actually checked he's being listed as probable, so he's expected to play. And the one reason why I have a little interest in Cam Reddish, and it might bite me playing him in this game, and I might see it come to fruition later on during the preseason, but he didn't play any time in summer league. So this guy's coming out basically completely raw from college and just practice. So they're going to want to get him some NBA experience and get him as much time as possible on the court. And with all those other wings that you did mention are out, Alan Crabb is out, and Chandler Parsons is going to be out. You mentioned Evan Turner as well, so that's basically going to, in my opinion, leave a lot of it on the wing for Reddish and Hunter. And Reddish, like you said, can also play some backup point as well. So he has a few avenues to get there. Really risky. I wouldn't recommend him necessarily in cash. He'd be more of a GPP play, but he definitely perks my interest in John Collins as well. Just knowing how elite he is in a point per minute basis and what he could do, especially in this matchup. If he's drawing a direct matchup against Zion, he could really take advantage of that on the offensive way. So for me, it's those three guys. Hunter does peak it a little bit, but I think I would rather prefer Reddish just on the sole fact of they're going to want to get this guy some NBA run.
Here's an interesting thing, and it's funny that you mentioned Reddish because right before we got on the pod, I just had this discussion with my son because we were talking about some of these teams, and he absolutely loves Reddish. And I dug in. This is an incredible stat. So he played at Duke, obviously, last year with RJ and Zion, and he averaged 13 points a game, which is reasonable, 3.7 rebounds, 1.9 assists, which is okay. But here's the thing that I couldn't believe. I'll give you one guess. What was his field goal percentage from three and his field goal percentage from the field for the entire season for Duke? Now, granted, the guy was drafted as a shooter. He's supposed to be a shooter. So that's going to give you a little hint, but take a guess.
I would imagine that, if my memory serves me correct, that I know he shot terrible. I know he was actually kind of a little bit of a disappointment while he was at Duke, knowing that he was coming out of high school as a 5-star recruit. He was probably, if not the most highly touted prospect coming out of his class when he was leaving high school. So I think that's kind of why he was a big disappointment. So I'm going to guess that he might have shot like 29% from the field, but surprisingly shot a little bit better from 3-point.
Not as bad. He was 33% from three and 35% from the field. To shoot 35% from the field just sort of shocked me. I thought was a little bit, and 33% also from three. So I don't know. Maybe that's an aberration. Maybe because he wasn't one of the main top two options in that offense. It'll be an interesting guy to see, what he's made of. A lot of people are in his corner. I still think he has to somehow find a way to leap past Herter for the key minutes when the regular season starts. But I just thought that was an interesting stat. I would not have thought he was low 30s as a shooter coming out of college, because it's, as you know, the defense gets just a little bit tougher when you take this level of a step up. So
definitely. And one more thing with Kevin Huerter. He's already been said that his minutes are going to be monitored and limited.
Yeah.
He will play, but there's now a chance he plays as much minutes as some of these other starters. So that kind of says something to me for some of the other starters when you think about it, like some of the guaranteed starters, because if he's playing limited minutes, you got to imagine it's more than 10, lower than 20. And that, to me, says that some of these other starters might get more than 20.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe a DeAndre Hunter, ends up being a better play than we're giving him credit for.
One of those young wings are going to do something. Whether it's Hunter or Reddish, I'm expecting one of them to do something. Just with all the availability, they have to.
And John Collins is a fine pivot. If I may, as I'm building these lineups, and really dig in here, may pivot to him on a few spots, just because, again, he's one of those guys in 15 minutes can do a phenomenal amount of damage, let alone if he gets 25. So, all right, awesome. We got the last game, man. One game left. Believe it or not, we have one game left. Milwaukee Bucks, and the only guy I have listed as a game time decision but missed the last practice was DJ Wilson. Other than that, looks like everybody else is a green light right now.
Yeah, and I think it's something hamstring related or quad related, if I read correctly earlier today, and they're being very cautious with it. It's not a serious injury, but anytime it's something like a hamstring or one of those soft muscle injuries, you got to be wary of it because they can linger. So I wouldn't be shocked if he sits, and he wasn't a guy that we were going to be too keen on. Anyway, just knowing how deep this Bucks team is, it's Definitely. Kind of hard to be in love with anybody. Again, this is a perfect example. I'm going to try to just fade all the guys that were in FIBA. So, Giannis, it's hard to say don't play Giannis. Again, it's kind of that situation like we were talking about the other night with LeBron, where if you told me he's going to be the best player on the slate, it wouldn't shock me, but we kind of have to take a stance on some guys. So yeah. I think that's going to be my stance with them is, if I'm playing 6 to 7 lineups, I'll have them in maybe 1, possibly 2. But the guy I'm going to be targeting the most would be Bledsoe.
Bledsoe, okay. And your reasoning?
Again, I'm not playing Middleton. I'm not playing Giannis. Just the fact that a lot of the damage Bledsoe was able to do last season, if people were paying attention, was when Brogdon was off the court and Brogdon got hurt. Bledsoe really started to shine and start becoming a very